Hey guys, welcome back to Rachel Reads. My name is Rachel. I love to read and write Christian fiction, and today we're getting into my March wrap up, which is a lot of books from the library, so there'll be a lot of photos on the screen. But I have a few physical copies, so let's go ahead and get started with the video. Okay, so the first book I read is The Spice King by Elizabeth Candom. I believe this is part of the Hope and Glory trilogy. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I enjoyed it, and it was really good. I loved both our main characters and how the story progressed. And I do recommend it if you want to try some historical Christian fiction. The next book I read was Candle with the Stars by Connellan Cosette. I gave this book, I also want to say 4.5 stars. I love this book so much. It was really interesting to read a book during the time of Exodus and then leaving Egypt. So if you want to try biblical fiction, this is a great book to try. Next book I read is The Hidden Prince by Tessa Afshar. I'm pretty sure I gave this book 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. The characters were really great, and I love seeing them progress and change and how some of the things that went on, how that shaped them. And I think it was a super interesting book. It is biblical fiction set in Daniel. So if you want to read more about that type of history, it's really interesting, and I love this cover. Isn't it so pretty? The next books I read are part of the trilogy, and they are Flight of Fancy, Diamond in the Rough, and Storing Up Trouble by Jen Turano. I'm just going to talk about this series as a whole. I enjoyed it. The first book I think is a 4-star. Book 2 was, I want to say 4.5 maybe, and I think book 3 was also a 4.5. I really enjoyed them, and the characters were quite funny, and I like seeing them act. I'm pretty sure book 2 was my favorite, but they were all really good, and I do recommend Jen Turano. She is a great author, and she writes the wittiest Regency romance you'll ever read. And the next book I read was The Wonderland Trials by Sarah Ella. I love this book so much. I love this cover so much. If you keep watching, one of the next videos you should watch will probably be a book haul. This is a spoiler. I did end up buying this book after reading it. I love this book so much. It is so good, and it's kind of a dystopian fantasy with a little bit of an allegory. Our main character is Alice, and I am spending more time on this book. That's just because I love this one so much, and I really recommend it. If you are trying fantasy, it's good. If you want to try dystopian, it's good. If you like seeing the mix of the two, because fantasy and dystopian are some of my favorite genres, so this was such an interesting mix. In chess, if you know chess, this is such a good book, and I'm so glad I bought it because the cover is this stunning like gold array of the different parts of like cards, and I just think that's so interesting and fun. And book 2 is coming out this year. I'll put a cover picture up here. I'm planning on pre-ordering it soon if I stop spending money on books, of course. But The Wonderland Trials by Sarah Ella. The next book I read was The Red Ribbon by Pepper Basham. I have read 2 of her books, and this makes 3. I heard about this either from Book Lover Amanda, or I think I'd seen it at my library, and I'm pretty sure I gave this book 4 stars. I enjoyed it. It was good. It took me a while to get into, but once I started reading, I really found it interesting, and it was a pretty good book. If you're looking for like small town historical fiction, it was good. This book I read was something I had to read, and that was Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. I think I gave this book 2 stars, and the 2 is because of drama, because you know Shakespeare's dramatic. That's the only reason it got 2 stars. So yeah. The next book I read was The Land of Silence by Tessa Afshar. I want to say this is the first book of hers I've given 4 stars. It was good and I enjoyed it. I just wish we would have spent more time in the main plot of the story, knowing what biblical fiction this did come from. But it was still good, and I enjoyed reading it. Her books are honestly so good, and I love the way she does her biblical fiction. So if you haven't read any of her books, I would recommend either The Hidden Prince or Bread of Angels. Those are really good books. But I did enjoy this one enough. So the last books I read this month are part of a series, and that is The Skin Map, The Bone House, and The Spirit Well, and these are by Stephen R. Lawhead. They are kind of like, they're kind of like fantasy, but not really. It has to do with like ley lines and science and smart people stuff essentially. But you can pretty much cross into like different time zone. You can cross into like different time periods and different areas in that time period. If you've ever heard of the series, you know what I'm talking about. I know a few booktubers have read it, and I did find it interesting. I want to say all the books got like 4.5 stars. Book 1 is definitely my favorite, and I didn't realize this series was not a trilogy, so that's why I only got book 1 through 3. But now I have to get book 4 and 5 if I want to read it. I'm not for sure. Because the first book is the best, and you kind of get the explanation of what they're going after, what the skin map is, because that was a little interesting. It wasn't bad, but it definitely was interesting, and if you haven't read anything like that before, I definitely would recommend it. I just would go into it knowing like it is fiction. It's not real. There's no way this could be real, but it is interesting enough. So that is all the books I read in March. I don't plan on doing an April TBR, and I think my next book video or like a wrap-up video just might be a bookish wrap-up or like a recent reads, because having to do these at the end of every month and then going on and like having them edited and posted by the end of the month is kind of hard sometimes. So I think a recent reads might work better, so that way I can just kind of like film a bunch of books together, because sometimes I don't read a lot of books in a month, or other times I might read a lot and want to talk about them. So that's what I might start doing, because I have read a lot of books since the March wrap up, and it's only like the day I'm filming this is April 10th, I'm pretty sure. So it just depends. That's all for this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.